Hi, Michelle from Birdcage and Thread here with a tutorial showing you how to waterproof your cotton fabrics. I'll show you two different recipes. One will be silicone based and the other will be wax based. Whatever you decide, these treatments can be applied before or after your sewing project as they don't gum up your sewing needle. As with any waterproofing treatment to fabric, once the fabric's washed, the treatment washes out. You can, however, reapply the treatment after washing. If you do need to wash the treated item, I'd suggest hand washing only. So let's get on to making the first recipe. Firstly, I'll show you the silicone-based method. For this, you only need two ingredients. The first one is clear 100% silicone. Make sure it's 100% and it's clear. You don't want white or any coloured silicone. The next thing you'll need is odorless mineral spirits. In the UK it's known as white spirit. In Australia and New Zealand it's known as mineral turpentine. Whatever you know it by, try to get the odorless or low odour. While there's still an odour with mineral spirits, the smell dissipates as the fabric dries, so don't be alarmed when you open the bottle and realise that it has a smell. You're going to want something to mix it in and to mix it with. The last thing you'll need is something to store it in. You can use a jar, but I use a spray bottle and it works fabulous as you can spray this stuff on. Just make sure that everything you use is not from the kitchen. You can even use a paint stick to stir if you like. So firstly, we take the tube of silicone and we're going to squeeze the entire tube into the container. This tube is labelled as 2.8 fluid ounces or 82.8 millilitres. I'm weighing it as it's easier to weigh the ingredients rather than trying to measure out the volume. Next we're going to add 340 grams or 2 cups or half a quart of mineral spirits. Now comes the tedious part. You're going to stir and stir this until the silicone's completely dissolved in the spirit. It's going to take a while, so just keep stirring until it's all dissolved. You can put it in the spray bottle and just shake it up, which makes this process a bit faster. But just if you don't have a spray bottle, just keep stirring until that silicone's all dissolved. Okay, that's taken about 5 minutes of stirring. Just make sure there's no more lumps of silicone left and it's all dissolved in the mineral spirit. You can store it in a container like this. Just make sure you put a lid on it and label it well. I store mine in a spray bottle because you can spray this stuff onto your fabric or you can brush it on. And that's it. Your waterproof spray is ready to use. This treatment can either be sprayed on or brushed on. So to use it, spray the fabric and leave it to dry naturally. Of course, making sure that your work surface is protected. You can see it soak into the fabric. So try not to let the fabric sit on the surface that you spray on until it's completely dry. as it may stick. Pick it up and move it every now and then. Once it's dry, you can iron it, sew it, just like you would if it were untreated. You can also give it 2 or 3 coatings, it's totally up to you. You can even use this on shoes or gloves to waterproof them. The use for this stuff is endless. The next waterproofing method is the wax. This recipe is even easier, however this one changes the look and feel of your fabric, so just be aware of that before diving in. It gives the fabric a waxed paper type coating and it makes the fabric a little firmer. If you like the look of waxed canvas, you'll love this. You can wax plain or printed quilting cotton, denim, canvas, duck cloth or any cotton type fabric with this treatment. The only ingredient you'll need for this is beeswax. And beeswax comes in a variety of yellow colours, but it also comes in white, which has been bleached, and this is what I have here. I prefer to use the white as it doesn't interfere with the tones of your fabric, particularly if you're using printed cotton. If you're using a plain dark fabric, the yellow beeswax would be fine. All you need to do is to melt the beeswax in a saucepan over a low heat until it's melted. Once your wax is melted, turn off the heat, but leave the saucepan on the heat source to keep warm. And then make sure your work surface is protected. I've just got some parchment paper here. And using a clean brush, dip the brush in the melted wax and just paint straight on the fabric. You can see it dries almost instantly when you brush it on, and it looks pretty ugly at this stage, but just keep going. If your wax starts to harden in the saucepan, just remelt it. And just keep going until your entire surface is coated with the wax. Now that the wax is dry, you've got 2 options to finish the treatment. One's a little faster than the other. So you can either warm the fabric with a hairdryer or you can iron the fabric. But just make sure that you protect your iron and your work surface. I like to use parchment paper or baking paper because they're lint free. So just place the fabric on top of the parchment paper, of course on your ironing board. And place it over the top as well. Then just melt that wax and it'll soak into the fabric. I had my steam on there, so I just turned it off. I'll just take a quick peek. So you can see how that's transformed the fabric. Now I've got a little area there I could go back over, but just for this demonstration I won't do that. And you can see I've still got a little bit of excess here. So I can pick it up, move it around, and just concentrate on those areas, melting that wax back into the fabric. You can see it's back in there. And you can keep going as many times as you like to get the look that you want. As I said, the ironing is much faster than the hairdryer because the iron's a lot hotter. Now the fabric's cooled, you can just leave it as is and it's waterproof. What you can do, this is a quilting cotton by Moda. It's just in a fairly solid colour. If you want the look of wax canvas, you can just scrunch the fabric however you'd like. If you want more texture, scrunch it more. If you just want a little bit of texture, just scrunch it a little bit. And you can see that gives it the look of waxed canvas. That's only with a little scrunching, but if I completely scrunch it up tight and then open it back out, you can see it's textured much more. And if you've got excess wax, you can just brush it off, or if you're not happy with that, just repeat with the iron and the parchment paper and it'll go back to its original state with just the wax soaking into the fabric if you don't like the wrinkled look. And if you've got any leftover beeswax, like I have here in the saucepan, just remelt it and pour it into a mould, and then you can reuse it again. So now we're going to test both of the treatments. The first one on my left is the silicone one, which we treated in the first part of the video. And as you can see, the water's just rolling off that. And if there is any leftover water, you can see a water spot there, it just beads up. So that's the front and that's the back. And as you can see, there's no water penetration on the back. The second one is the waxed canvas, or the beeswax treatment. And again, you can just see the water rolling off there. And if there is any water left, it just beads on the surface. As you can see, there's no water on the back. Just keep in mind that these treatments aren't permanent, so if you do end up washing them, just as a reminder, wash them by hand and then you'll have to retreat the fabric. I hope you enjoyed these waterproofing recipes, and thanks for watching.